Welcome back everybody to the full 90. I want to say a massive thank you for all the support you showed on the channel and the last video. It's awesome that you guys are loving it. If you want to see more videos like this, of course, if you're enjoying it, leave a like rating on it. And we're getting very close to 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome. I want to give a massive shout out to Cakester2000 who left down in the comments of last week's video his predictions for the week. So if you want to get featured in next week's video, then leave your 10 Premier League predictions for all of the games coming up in week 7, and I'll pick one of you to shout out in the next one. Given the results of last week, it was actually a tough one to call, but let's look back on my predictions for last week and then what actually happened. This is the bit that I'm most excited to do about this series. Anyway, we're starting off with Fulham versus Watford. I predicted a 2-1 win to Watford, and although that looked likely at many different points in the game, it ended 1-1, so that's fair enough. Coming up next, we have the the stinker of the week, Burnley versus Bournemouth. No one saw this coming. I predicted a 2-1 win to Bournemouth, and it actually ended 4-0 to Burnley, so I could not have been more wrong on that result. Cardiff versus Manchester City, I predicted a 3-0 win to City. They turned it up and managed to get a 5-0 win, so that is absolutely huge. Crystal Palace Newcastle, I predicted 2-1 to Crystal Palace, with Newcastle being able to get that goal that they always seem to get. However, this was a bit of a dud, which I suppose was always likely to happen with two teams like this, but it ended in a 0-0, so we'll move swiftly on. Leicester versus Huddersfield, I was somewhat right in terms of goal difference. I predicted a 2-0 win to Leicester, but given that Huddersfield scored in the first 5 minutes, Leicester had to score 3 goals to make it 3-1. Moving on to the only correct score, there was actually a couple of people that went back to my first video and said, hey, you got this score right, congratulations, which was really, really cool. But Liverpool versus Southampton, it was 3-0 to Liverpool, thanks to a disallowed goal. It would have been 4-0, but 3-0 is what it stood as, and that was the only one that I got exactly correct. Moving on to Manchester United and Wolves, I predicted that Man United would be too strong for Wolves, but much like Manchester City, Wolves clutched on to a 1-1 draw, so Wolves are doing bits. They're the dark horse to watch out for, I think. They've got a solid squad, and I've just seen a story today that Ruben Neves has been valued by Wolves at 100 million. I'm not sure if he's worth that much, but still, that's pretty mad. And then on to the final game of the Saturday, I predicted 2-0 to Tottenham, and it would have been had Brighton not got a stoppage time goal, so it ended 2-1 to Tottenham, so not a bad prediction there. And now we move on to Super Sunday. West Ham versus Chelsea. Obviously, West Ham have started to find a little bit of form, beating Everton, and they actually held Chelsea to a 0-0 draw. I don't think anyone would have seen that coming either. I predicted a 3-1 convincing win to Chelsea, but it's the first time that they have dropped points this season, and if they're to contest for the title, they've got to be getting more than a 0-0 out of games like that. And then the final game, Arsenal versus Everton. I said I would have predicted 2-0 Arsenal, 3-0 Arsenal, had their defence not been so leaky for the rest of the season. But Arsenal did actually get the 2-0 win with a very solid performance from Petr Cech. So, yeah, not too bad. But I think we're going to be doing better as the weeks progress. Not the best week to start out in terms of predictions, but let's get to week 7. Kicking it off with the early start is West Ham versus Man United. Now, this is probably one of the hardest games to call because Man United have been inconsistent at the best of times, as have West Ham. They've only just started contesting in different games. With it being at West Ham, I was tempted to put a 1-1 draw, much like the Man United Wolves game, and a draw like the West Ham Chelsea game. But again, if I'm being realistic, I think Man United are going to turn it up and take the 2-1 victory, so I'm saying a United win to kick off the weekend. Moving along, we have Huddersfield hosting Tottenham at 3 PM, and much like my prediction for the Brighton-Tottenham game last week, I think this is going to be even more one-sided than that because that actually ended up being a 2-1 win to Tottenham. I'm going for a 3-0 win, convincing win to Tottenham, leaving Huddersfield stuck at the bottom of the table. The next game is a juicy one, Arsenal versus Watford. Arsenal are in very good form. They've won a lot of games now. They're winning games, which is good. Watford are strong in the attack. I do think they're going to grab one. I think they're better than Everton on the attack, so I think it's going to be a similar game to the Arsenal-Everton, very close, but I think Arsenal are going to edge it with a 2-1 victory. Coming up next, we have Wolves versus Southampton. Now, I was tempted to go 2-0 Wolves, but I'm not going to. I'm going to predict a 1-0 win for the home side. Wolves are good on the attack and they're very good at keeping clean sheets. However, they've only scored and conceded 6 goals this season. And Southampton, they're not the most explosive team on the attack either. They've also scored 6 this season and conceded 9. So I get the feeling this is going to be quite a low scoring game. Wolves could surprise me and win 3-0, but I just don't see that happening. I think it's going to be under 2.5 goals as a betting tip, if you will. And I think Wolves are going to edge it at home. They should win against a struggling Southampton. 1-0. The next game, Newcastle versus Leicester. Newcastle have been struggling at the start of the season, but Leicester, they've also been a little bit inconsistent. You never quite know who's going to turn up, and I'm thinking Newcastle's going to do the classic park the bus for the majority of the game. They're going to play very defensive, as they like to do, hold on to that point. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I don't believe I actually predicted any draws last week. I'm the kind of guy, I want to see a winner. I don't like predicting draws. I don't like expecting a draw to happen. I like to think that some team, whichever one, is going to take the edge over another team, but I am going to go for a draw on this one. The next fixture, Manchester City versus Brighton. Now, like I said last week, you generally get the City result right. They're probably going to win. It's more just a question of how many they're going to score and how many they're going to concede. I predicted a 3-0 win for Man City last week. It ended up being 5-0. This week, I'm predicting a 4-1 victory to City. Brighton are pretty decent on the counter-attack. They can score goals. They've shown us that. So I am going for a 4-1 win to Manchester City. Coming up next, we have a struggling Everton against Fulham. So this is going to be an interesting game, probably one of the closer ones. It's quite tough to pick. I was going to go for a draw, but I think Fulham are just in a better spot right now, and although they're away from home, I think Fulham are going to edge this one to a 2-1. Okay, that's not one of my sound predictions that I have full faith will come true, but I think Fulham can get the win with a 2-1. And now we have the biggest game of the weekend, another test for Liverpool. They've really done well so far. They've beaten Tottenham, they've beaten PSG. Now it's away to Chelsea. This is going to be tough. I find myself predicting 2-1 for a lot of games because I give the team that I think is going to win 2 goals and then the other team a goal because I just can't see them going 90 minutes without scoring. So I was going to go 2-1 Liverpool on the basis that I think Liverpool are going to win, but I don't think Chelsea would play that entire game at home without scoring. However, it is Chelsea. They are at home. If they find good form, it'll be very tough for Liverpool, so I'm going to go for a Desmond Tutu. If I did have to predict a winner, I would predict Liverpool, and it would be a 2-1. So that would be like my backup, I guess you could say. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be brave and predict a 2-2 with Liverpool dropping their first points of the season. The next one is a little bit interesting. We have a lower table clash, possibly a chance for Cardiff to get their first win in the Premier League. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. Especially after Burnley just destroying Bournemouth 4-0. I know you can't go too much on 1 week's results, but I do think Burnley, they're obviously stronger than Cardiff. I think Cardiff will nick a goal. It might even be closer than I'm making out in this scoreline, 3-2, 2-1, something like that. But I'm going for a Burnley 3-1 win. Neither team is really known for scoring loads of goals, but I think as they're more evenly matched, I guess you could say at this point in the season, maybe there will be quite a few. And yeah, 3-1 to Burnley is my prediction. And the final game, a very hard one to predict, Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace. Bournemouth, they're very good on the attack. Crystal Palace, they're pretty solid at the back. They don't really let many goals through. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I don't see Bournemouth running away with this one like they did with the Leicester game. I think it will be closer. And if I had to pick a winner again, I'd probably go for the home team. But again, a 1-1 draw. So if we recap the results, I'm going for a Man United 2-1 win over West Ham, Tottenham 3-0 over Huddersfield, Arsenal 2-1 over Watford, Wolves 1-0 over Southampton, Newcastle drawing 1-1 with Leicester, very similar to the Bournemouth Crystal Palace game, Man City beating Brighton 4-1, Fulham getting the edge on Everton to win 2-1, Chelsea and Liverpool, I can't call it, I'm going for a 2-2 draw, Burnley to beat Cardiff 3-1, and then 1-1 between Bournemouth and Crystal Palace. Let me know what you think of my predictions down in the comments below, and of course, if you leave your 10 predictions for these games, you could be featured in the next week's video. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for this one. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe for more football prediction videos. Next week, I've also got the UEFA Nations League coming up, so there will be more than one video a week. There's Champions League stuff coming up after that. So October's going to be an awesome month for the Full 90 channel. I think I've got 7 or 8 videos scheduled to be uploaded, so be sure to hit the bell icon to be told when they all go up. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video very soon.